Hi, and welcome to Northwest Brew Talk. I'm Mike Rizzo.
And I'm Michelle Rizzo.
And this is episode number 14. On today's show, we'll have an interview with Stone's Throw Brewing, our brew news and views, and local music from Bella Farinas.
If you have any comments or questions, send us an email at nwbrewtalk@gmail.com. We are on Twitter at nwbrewtalk and on Facebook at facebook.com/nwbrewtalk. To start the show, let's open a beer.
Always. And today, we've got Odin Gift from Odin Brewing. Beer has 5.4% ABV.
Odin Brewing embraces the exploratory spirit of the ancient Vikings. They set sail in December 2009 and have quickly become one of the fastest growing breweries in Washington, and their beer is now sacking and pillaging cities throughout Washington and British Columbia. They've taken a different tack than many new brewers, and rather than going for a number of very big single batch beers, they focused on food-friendly beers and a smaller lineup that is readily available year-round. Odin Brewing realized a long time ago that food-friendly by no means means less flavorful, and they actually add ingredients to widen the palate of their beers above and beyond their original styles.
Yeah, definitely a little different. It says great beer designed with great food in mind. And this one, I know you're going to say, but it's an amber ale brewed with juniper berry, so it definitely has a little different flavor to it, a little darker color, but it's a good beer.
Odin's Brewing has this to say about Odin's Gift. Inspired by the northern brewing tradition of flavoring beer with juniper boughs, we created Odin's Gift, a deep ruby-colored ale brewed with a touch of juniper berries. Rich caramel and roasted malt flavors complement earthy hop aroma to produce a beer that easily pairs with a variety of foods.
All right, that's a good beer. And now, onto our brew news and views.
What goes together better than beer and bacon? I'm not really sure if they go together, but bacon seems to be the hottest food in the past few years in everything from drinks to ice cream. The second annual Beer and Bacon Classic is returning to Seattle on Saturday, May 2nd for 2 sessions that look to be quite tasty. The event will be held at Safeco Field with a brunch session from noon to 3 p.m. and an evening session from 7 to 10 p.m. Judges at the event include several social media personalities and executive chef Ethan Stowell. So far, there are 50 breweries, including many local, but some from other cities, at 32 restaurants, and this is set to be an interesting event. There will be DJs, interactive games, beer schools, and cooking demos. The event costs $65.90 for general admission and $109.90 for VIP access 1 hour before the event start. Visit beerandbaconclassic.com for more info.
And we will be at the night session. Okay, there are a lot of other news items to cover this week. Peddler Brewing Company of Ballard in Seattle recently received one of those dreaded cease and desist letters from Lost Coast Brewing Company in California. Why, you ask? Because they dared to call their tangerine wheat beer Tangerine Wheat. Apparently, Lost Coast has, quote, expanded substantial sums, unquote, to promote a beer called Tangerine Wheat. So the 3-person peddler that distributes their beer about 15 miles from their brewery has complied and now calls their tangerine beer Tangerine Hefeweizen. I had it a few weeks back and it's pretty good, so why don't you go pay them a visit and try it. Slaughter County Brewing in Port Orchard is planning on increasing production at their small brewery. They produced 200 barrels last year and sold almost all those in-house. This year they are pushing the wholesale side and trying to grow the business. Founder Scott Curvin may convert some of his restaurant space into more brewing area as he looks for investors or partners to help him expand.
The 7th annual Seattle Beer Week starts next Thursday, May 7th, and runs through May 17th. The official beer, brewed by Silver City, is on store shelves, and festivities are in the final planning stages. There will be events across Seattle, and on opening night, the official beer, Zebra Brew, will be tapped. Everything from cask nights to specials from breweries across the state and more. Saturday the 9th, Lazy Boy Brewing in Everett will celebrate their 9th anniversary, so there's plenty to do. Check SeattleBeerWeek.com for more details.
All right. Central Washington University in Ellensburg is now offering a 4-year degree in craft brewing. The craft brewing Bachelor of Science degree is the first of its kind in the state, and enrollment is open for the fall quarter. The degree covers chemistry, business, brewing biochemistry, brewing process, and much more. With the number of breweries in Washington continuing to grow, there will definitely be a need for trained employees, and this looks like a great start. Now, this past Saturday, April 25th, Chainline Brewing opened its doors in Kirkland. The new brewery is being run on a Czech-style brewing system that they imported from Japan, where it was not being used. Their tap room is along the Cross-Kirkland corridor, and a deck faces it. According to KirklandViews.com, customers came and went during the day. They don't serve food, but food trucks are on site, and they are dog and family friendly.
McMenamins is opening their largest hotel and brewery this fall in Bothell. The company is spending $30 million to renovate the historic Anderson School. The original woodworking shop will become a brewery and game room bar. The cafeteria will be a market-fresh restaurant. Old classrooms will become hotel rooms, and the school gym will be a movie theater. Add a saltwater pool and 10-barrel brewing system, and this sounds like an amazing place not to be missed. Thanks to Seattle.eater.com.
And lastly, Wander Brewing in Bellingham is celebrating their first anniversary this Saturday, May 2nd. They're going to have a live whiskey barrel tapping and all kinds of other things, including their first band at their brew hall. So check them out in Bellingham. And that's the brew news and views this week.
Welcome back to Northwest Brew Talk. If you have not yet subscribed to our podcast, why not do it now? It's free, available on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, and other sites. And if you'd like us, a review and rating would be really appreciated. But even more important, make sure you tell your friends about NW Brew Talk via social media or whatever way you want.
All right, now let's talk to Tony Luciano from Stone's Throw Brewing in Fairhaven.
Talk about brewing.
Yeah.
So, you're not originally from Washington, from Ohio.
Yep.
Came here to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened then?
And then I went to Alaska on the state ferry and met this guy, Andrew Bauer, who was became a good friend of mine. He was brewing beer at the Watkin Brewery in Ferndale on an old dairy setup. It was a 5-barrel system, 5-barrel kettle with like a 20-barrel rectangular dairy tank. And he taught me how to brew beer one day. He's like, hey, you want to learn how to make beer and take over because I'm going to graduate and move on? I was like, of course. I drink a lot of beer. I'd love to learn how to make it. So, we had those inflatable rafts, and we had a plastic paddle for one of those. We would sanitize and aerate the beer with that, and it was a super archaic thing. But to make 10 kegs of it at a time and be in college, it was it was cool.
You had a lot of beer.
And then I started taking organic chemistry for my environmental science degree, and would go to the professor and just be like, look, I know you're talking about what's in my beer books, but will you translate it for me? And every week I'd go to his office and we'd have lunch together, and he'd talk to me about the beer and the chemical process in the beer, and then I would go back and try to retrograde the old dairy stuff, and got pH testers and started slowly upgrading to the point where we had a glycol chiller and a conical fermenter and had the beer on tap in 4 or 5 places in town. And
Really?
And it was great. Graduated, kept brewing beer, and just living the dream, really. But then school loans came around, and it was like, I can't live on free beer and free rent forever, so I'll grow up a little, and I moved to Bend, Oregon for a wilderness therapy job, like one of these brat camp type programs. And then loved doing that, was making good money, but missed being in beer and, doing tri-clamp valves or tri-clamps and butterfly valves and all. Just big stuff from home brewing, buckets and that kind of thing. So I became a cellarman at the Bend Brewing Company under Tanya Cornett, and that was a real cool experience. She was winning medals at the GABF and World Beer Cup, and so I was learning how to clean and sanitize under her supervision, which really helped my understanding of the commercial side of cellaring and production schedules and that kind of thing. So ever since the Watkin Brewery, I dreamed of opening my own. That just kind of, the owner kept it as a hobby, and he didn't really want it to go commercial. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll have to create my own dream then. And lived overseas for a few years, teaching at an international school with my fiance, and then saw Colshan open up in Bellingham, saw Wander and Aslan start to open up, and thought, man, if I don't do something soon, I'm going to miss the boat. So in about 3 years ago in Malaysia, I started writing a business plan, got a hold of my business partner, Jack, who was then working in San Diego as a solar installation guy, and we got together and said, yeah, let's do it. We made a plan and moved to back to Fairhaven. Knew we wanted to be here on the south side because the adventure is the Chuckanut Mountains are right there, the San Juan Islands, the Cascades. So it's a stone's throw from everything. And everybody that lives in Bellingham comes through Fairhaven regularly. So we knew we wanted to be in Fairhaven and started shopping for places. We got this place about 18 months ago. And I told the landlord, I said, look, I'm interested in renting as long as I can turn it into a commercial brewery. Well, the walk-in brewery equipment had been sitting idle for 5 or 6 years. And I thought, the brewing industry is exploding. Why is this equipment collecting dust? I should try to get my hands on it and put it in a garage and just stay small. So that was our plan. We wrote up the business plan. We didn't really need a loan at that point because we had a deal with the equipment. We had a property we're paying residential rates on that's zoned commercial, and it's like, sweet, full speed ahead. Well, about 6 months went by. The TTB was approved. Everything was good to go, and then the equipment fell through, and that didn't work out. And then, it's like, well, we got the property. What are we going to do? Do we want to just kind of replace 1 5-barrel fermenter and keep it low budget, or should we see what we can afford and go for a bank loan? So that's what we did. And we got the bank loan in like October, and we started construction the next day, and we're hoping to be open, hoping for Ski to Sea, which is the end of May, Memorial Weekend, but it's looking like construction gets pushed back, and that's something I'm learning all over. It's different than brewing beer. Construction's a whole other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to have shipping containers. So now, what made you go for that?
So when that equipment deal fell through, and we were sitting here on the deck with the engineer and the architect and trying to figure out what our limitations were with this property. There's no alley. There's no commercial access in and out. And so it was like, okay, we have to stay small key. And the city said, there's a equation that tells you how much you can spend on your renovations before you have to put in fire hydrants and street improvements and all that stuff. So we were really limited by that. And the garage, we wanted to just knock it down, but there's codes against that because it's a historical village and all this stuff. So the engineer said, well, did you ever think of a modular? And we started looking at modular stuff and shipping containers. Nobody does that. And it's, Fairhaven's very environmentally conscious, and the shipping container things we just jumped on it. And so part of that came from having the modular bit was, okay, we're going to put $150,000, $200,000 into this setup. And what can we do with it? In 5 years we're going to have to expand, but we don't have the space here. So would we keep it all retail and move the equipment somewhere else? Well, in the shipping containers, you can just unbolt a few things and unplumb it and cut the electrical wires and just lift them out and either create more retail space or keep it here. And that plan has kind of evolved into, well, we've purchased equipment that's going to maximize the sales on this property, and if we grow, we'll grow into another site somewhere else. But that kind of just evolved, and it helped us stay under that threshold of dollars for the city, so we don't have to put in sidewalks and all that.
Right.
It's a long-winded Saturday morning.
No, that's good as long as you can talk.
Yeah.
No, but that's good.
So it's one of, the things evolve. This whole project, I don't know how to describe it other than you wake up with a plan, and by the time the coffee maker's spitting out the last drips of coffee, you have a totally different plan.
Yeah.
And then by lunchtime, you're doing something that you didn't even see on the radar in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's keeps you on your toes.
So what type of beers do you guys plan on brewing?
first and foremost, want to brew the beers I like.
Yeah.
Because, those are the ones I have the most experience with. And they're ales. Pale ale is predominantly my go-to. Porters and ambers and IPAs and, the run-of-the-mill ale category. Our refrigeration guy lives 2 blocks down the street. He exclusively drinks Miller High Life. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to start learning how to make a Miller High Life. So I Google Miller High Life clone. The first thing, low life. And this guy and I like to banter, so I just said, all right, I'm brewing this one for you, Mark. And that's a Kolsch.
Okay.
And that beer, when I brew it, it's gone before it's mature.
Really?
So I'll probably keep that one on as a regular.
Does he like it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, he doesn't like it straight away when it's young, because it's still got that kind of heavy body that's cloudy and stuff like that. But once it conditions and all the particulate settles out of it, and it's a clear, bubbly beer, it just throws them back.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it's pretty exciting. And that one's about 5.5%. Our porter right now that we're drinking is 4.6. The IPA we're shooting for 6.9. And the pale, I have a couple different varieties. I like a summertime 4% beer where I can drink a half a dozen of them in a day and not feel hungover. And then I like it to start in the afternoon with 1 or 2 and catch a quick buzz. So, it depends on where you're at in the season.
Yeah.
So, but I'd like to learn how to do some more experimental stuff. I just purchased ingredients after talking to a handful of brewers from the Epic Brewery in Salt Lake and a couple other ones around for gluten-free beer. And so I'm going to try one of those here over the weekend. And it's going to be interesting with sweet potatoes and molasses and tapioca, of all things.
Wow.
So, yeah, it'll be pretty cool. I'll experiment with that. And then, like sours and stuff. Like, why does anybody like bad beer? How did bad beer become so popular?
I don't know. And it's still growing, too.
Yeah, so I'll probably have to experiment with that. And I have a bunch of friends in the wine business, and so I'd like to do some barrel aging stuff and get my hands on some bourbon barrels and do that kind of thing.
So you pretty much want to try everything.
Yeah, I want to try everything, but I know what I'm good at, and I want to perfect that before I experiment too much. Like, one of my pet peeves at the moment, like, of course, opening a business, you're comparing every time you walk into another business. You're like, oh, I like this behind the bar. I don't like that. And you're trying to figure it out. But when you go into a new pub and they have 15 or 20 beers on tap, it's like mind-blowing. And I would rather just have a selection of standards. I look at Deschutes as my benchmark. Mirror Pond Pale Ale is an excellent beer. The Black Butte Porter, excellent. And they're mainstream. They have a few variations, but especially at first, just build some recognition, brand recognition, and
build some solid beers.
Yeah, solid beers. Build a community of people here in Fairhaven. Like, my neighbor Mark likes High Life. I'm going to try to make him happy because he's going to be one of our regular customers. And so I want to do that stuff too. The gluten-free thing is coming from that same vein. It's like, we're here in a very supportive community, and so I need to cater to them as much as myself in my dream. And especially to be successful, I think. So.
Right. So to go along with that, with the community, do you plan on trying to source as many local ingredients?
Yeah, I hope to. Right now we're going to use the Country Malt Group. They're out of Vancouver, and they source all their hops from Yakima and stuff like that. And the community here in Bellingham has grown so quick that, and people are really just supportive and embracing the culture where, Aslan a couple weeks ago sent out an email to all the brewers in town that said, hey, I over-ordered this particular product. Anybody wants some, I'll sell it to you at rate.
Nice.
And so, it might not be necessarily Washington, but it's sourced still from a local brewery.
Yeah, exactly.
It becomes a community thing. So,
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. So.
So how many beers are you brewing right now as you're working through things?
We try to keep 2 or 3 on tap at a time here. Just on our home brew, we got a keg with the top cut off as a kettle and yield about 10 gallons at a time. And we're experimenting with at least 10 recipes. 4 or 5 that are up there on our little nickel tour are pretty solid and have become consistent over the course of 6 or 8 months. Nice. And so now I'm comfortable with those recipes that I'm going to start playing with these experimental ones.
Cool.
And I'd say, a dozen or so.
So when you open, how many do you plan on having?
We're going to hope to have 4 or 5 regulars and then 2 or 3 seasonals. And those, seasonal or special release, there's all the terminology, and then 2 or 3 experimental ones. Okay. So the experimental ones will be, based on popular review, if we brew them again or just dump them out and never see them again, and the seasonal ones will be based on events and things around. Like there's a organization called Sustainable Connections, and they're teamed up with another one called Recreation Northwest, and they're going to build a new trail network in the woods over here just behind the city park. And so we're going to try to special brew a beer for their work parties and that kind of thing. So it's not necessarily seasonal, but sure. It's a special release. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's
tie in with the community.
Yeah,
people come back.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, so you already kind of mentioned, I guess it's going to depend on how well things go, whether you end up pulling out of here and going to a bigger facility or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you wouldn't know for a while.
No, I mean our kind of vision, you can't just think about next week, right. But our long-term plan would be to have this facility and then open a tasting room like maybe in Sudden Valley or up in Ferndale or work with Birds View Brewing and Concrete and do some kind of like special events, collaborative things like that. And so that would be a stepping stone up to, if we're at maximum production here, looking at teaming up with another brewery that's in a similar size where, maybe we buy a canning line and a bunch of 20-barrel fermenters and then share the space. Or there's a lot of that talk of cooperative stuff going on up here. I mean, 3 years ago there was just 3 breweries in Bellingham. Now we're going to be 6 or 7 based on a couple others. Right. And I've heard in the rumor mill there's 3 or 4 more coming into Whatcom County in the next year or two. So a lot of potential for that cooperative stuff. There's a group called the Bellingham Beer League, and it was 3 or 4 guys that have just started a campaign to raise funds to put together a collaborative communal space where each brewery would own their own fermenting vessels, but the brew house and the facilities are a common space, something like that.
Yeah, I've heard of there's one I heard of, I don't remember where it was, but kind of the same thing. It's a home brew place where people can go and brew, the home brew though. Yeah. They can go, everybody uses the same equipment kind of thing, and then they can can and bottle or whatever they want to.
Yeah. So we look at doing something like that, but yeah, that's in the 5 to 10 year plan, I think so.
Now, I don't know if I read, but are you going to have food, or are you going to have food trucks? Or
yeah, we're going to do a combination. Fairhaven's got 15 or 20 restaurants within a block of here.
Oh, okay.
And so we'd like to do some collaborative with those business owners. And our general policy is going to be bring your own food.
Okay.
And we'll have a food truck on certain days. We'll have bar food, soft pretzels and stuff like that all the time. And then we'll also... Hello. We'll also, try to do a mac and cheese from the Italian restaurant and have pizza from, there's 3 pizza places within a block from here. So it's have a couple different varieties and that kind of thing. I'd love to have a little kitchen eventually. Birds View is a perfect example of just grassroots, organic growth, and you got to keep the customers happy. And a meat and cheese tray, you can't go wrong with that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take much to serve it, but we're going to focus on the beer first, and then
Meat and cheese tray, that's kind of an old school German thing too.
Yeah.
That's what they used to put out.
Yeah.
Cheese and bread and beer.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe pretzel or two.
Yeah.
So, more beer.
All right. Well, sounds great. We're definitely looking forward to watching the business grow here.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Thanks to Tony from Stone's Throw for joining us today. Got a great little setup going there, and we're going to check it out again to see how he's doing soon. We'll be right back after a local music break from Bella Farinas.
I see your every move, watching me watch you. Hey baby, what should we do? I'll follow you. Why don't we get up and run, faced under the sun? Don't look back because they're after you. Oh, you never gotta tell me twice. Oh, baby, take my advice, 'cause it's you and me living this life. Say goodbye while no one's around. Can't you see it's time to be free? So baby, please run away with me.
That was Bella Farinas, Run Away With Me. You can check her out at bellafarinas.bandcamp.com.
All right, we're going to try another beer. This time we have Country Boy IPA by Everybody's Brewing, 6.2% ABV, and this is in a nice old can.
Everybody's Brewing is a small to medium-sized brew pub located in White Salmon, Washington. They were founded in 2008 and focus on session beers with all the flavor. They are located right in the heart of the Columbia River Gorge.
And this definitely golden color, and it has a lot of citrus scents to it. It definitely smells like a grapefruit and stuff.
Everybody's Brewing calls their Country Boy IPA dry, clean, crisp, and very citrusy. This beer is made for hop lovers. Centennial Amarillo and cluster hops provide a wonderful hop aroma and flavor in this beer. Golden in color with grapefruit and lemongrass notes in the finish.
All right. That's a good beer. I like that. I like the flavor. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Northwest Brew Talk.
Make sure you tune in next week when we chat with Paradise Creek and Hopped Up Brewing.
This show was produced and edited by me with engineering help from Michelle Rizzo.
If you want to contact us, you can email us at nwbrewtalk@gmail.com, or you can give us a call at 541-595-TALK. That's 541-595-8255.
And until next time, I'm Mike Rizzo.
I'm Michelle Rizzo.
Stay hopping, my friends.